All right, everybody. So this is our second webinar during the Small Business Week 2021. And tonight we have Fab Alberico with us. I hope I said it right. And he is going to share with us on how you can grow your business by exporting your products or services off island. Fab lives in the Cowichan Valley and provides one-on-one support to businesses on the Southern Gulf Islands who are interested in expanding their markets. And he has over 25 years experience providing business consulting services to clients in a wide range of industry, in addition to operating his own value-added wood business, which is making musical instruments, I just found out, which involves accessing markets around the world to source inputs and sell finished products. I'm going to hand it over to you, Fab, and yeah, I'm hoping that you're going to learn lots.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. I will go through just a few minutes here of a couple of slides. So I'll start to share my screen and hopefully give you a little bit of an idea of what our program is about. The thing that I would like to drive home right off the bat is that this is not kind of a one-size-fits-all program that is, geared towards a certain type of business or a certain type of industry or a certain type of client. We're really here to support rural businesses and rural business owners according to what your needs actually are. So we don't look to, have you slot yourself into a particular category or a particular plan of action. We really look to work with you to make sure that we're serving your needs, to make sure that you have all the resources at hand in order to access those markets outside of BC. So I'll also mention export sometimes is a bit of an intimidating word. We're not necessarily talking about exporting outside of Canada. Anything outside of BC is fair game. And indeed, for some of my rural clients, I work with people to just make sure that they have the tools that they need to understand what capacity building means, what proper what resources are needed in order to run successful business, and what management needs to be in place in order to capitalize on opportunities, even if they're local at first, which builds you up so that you're ready to take advantage of those opportunities outside BC when they come up. So the website, if you haven't checked it out already, is exportnavigator.ca. There's lots of information on there, including lots of success stories. No doubt you'll find a business on there that has gone through the program, is still in the program, that has used our services and found great success. So I am Fab Alberico, as Inga mentioned, and I work out of the Duncan office of the Community Futures. That's who holds the contract, but my area covers South Vancouver Island, Sunshine Coast, and the Gulf Islands. So what does Export Navigator do? Well, we help businesses grow by guiding them through the export process. So basically, in 2016, there was a study that found out that a lot of rural businesses in BC were not exporting at the same rate as the rest of the country. And they found out that why was because they didn't know that there were a whole bunch of export services available from provincial and federal government sources and other private sources. And they also discovered that even if they knew about them, they didn't know how to access them. So the Export Navigator program was born, and it was the whole intention was to have a streamlined one point of access, one actual physical person that you can pick up the phone or send an email to and get your questions answered. So we're not just a website, we're not just an anonymous 800 number. So you can see there are some of the numbers. We've been around for a while now, so we've supported over 650 businesses, 1,100 referrals to organizations like Global Affairs, to trade investment representatives, to customs brokers, basically anybody you would need to get into the realm of exporting outside of BC. We do a lot of these kinds of webinars. In fact, through Small Business BC, at least once a month, we have some kind of presentation on some aspect of exporting. And you can see there about 10% increase in sales on average in revenues for participating businesses in the program. Some of them have been much more successful than that and have doubled, sometimes tripled their sales. So how does it work? Well, we work one-on-one with businesses to help them sell their products and services. Like I say, it's not a one size fits all. You get in-person guidance from an advisor. In this case, it would be me. And I provide an export readiness assessment. So basically, if you're just becoming aware of what exporting is all about, we go over what you would actually need to be ready to export. And then we have this step-by-step workbook, which is both in paper form and an online format, which guides you through the export process. A lot of the questions that you need to ask yourself in order to figure out what you're going to need to get export ready and to actually step into those markets, and the right service connections at the right time. So I don't do all the work, but I do refer you to the people who will be there to help you and support you, because we're a fairly small program in the overall scheme of things. We cover all industries and we cover many clients. So we hand you over to the right people at the right time. For instance, if you decided that you wanted to sell pet food to Singapore, we would put you in touch with Global Affairs, who have trade commissioners in Singapore who know that market, and people in Vancouver who know that industry. So you get hours of free expert advice. And did I mention the program is free? So this is a fully funded program by both the federal and provincial governments. And so there's never any cost for being in the program. And you get step-by-step guidance at your pace, not mine. And we help you with business strategy and growth planning. So why should businesses export? Well, we've seen through the pandemic that if you're stuck with just one small sliver of the marketplace, if one of these economic shocks comes along, you can be quite vulnerable, and it can be quite hard to get out of that hole. So exporting businesses, basically three categories here that shield them from these economic shocks. One is to diversify markets, and the other is to develop a business resiliency. And the other is to seek new innovations. So if you start exporting your food product, let's say to Thailand, and they have a different flavor profile, maybe you adapt your food product to adapt to those tastes. And next thing you know, well, maybe there's other markets, including your domestic market, that would also like that product. Maybe there are some ways to innovate how you deliver that product based on how you've discovered people buy that product in foreign countries. And I should also mention that we also cover services. So it's not always about products. And services also include tourism. So lots of tourism businesses on Salt Spring, obviously. Tourism is an export. You are getting people from outside of the country to come to this country and spend their foreign exchange dollars here. But instead of delivering your product or service overseas to them, you get them here and you deliver it to them while they're here. So essentially you get to do all the fun stuff that's related to finding export markets, like going to trade shows or adapting your website and doing research and getting to know people from all over the world. But you kind of cut out all the stuff that can maybe sometimes be a little bothersome, like customs and duties and traveling to foreign countries, especially during a pandemic. So what's required to export? Well, you need to have a growth mindset. So this is something that you need to be prepared for. And that growth can happen pretty quickly, or the requirement to grow can happen pretty quickly, especially if you're looking towards markets like the United States or to India or to China. We have, out of all the countries in the industrialized world, we have more free trade agreements than just about anybody else. We have, through all our free trade agreements, access to about 1.5 billion people around the world just through our free trade agreements. A lot of those countries are rather large. So if you're prepared to have that growth mindset and to commit to that capacity planning, to getting the proper resources and management in place, there is certainly growth to be had. Time and energy, it's not going to happen easily. I'm not here to do the work for you. I'm here to point in the right direction and support you, provide the right tools, but it is going to require time and energy from you and your staff if you have some. And you're going to have to also have funds for expansion, because unfortunately, nothing is free, although we do put you in touch with some support programs that are quite generous often. This just to give you an idea of where Export Navigator is, and you'll notice that places like Vancouver and Victoria are not included. So this is only a program for rural businesses. A lot of people contact us from Vancouver and Victoria and indeed Kelowna, wishing to be in the program, and they just can't get into it because this is exclusively for businesses like on Salt Spring. We also have advisors for underrepresented groups. So whether it's Indigenous-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, or youth-owned businesses, we have specialty advisors that can help people get access to those services and supports, whether it's through Futurepreneur, the Women's Enterprise Center. A lot of Indigenous businesses operate under different regulations vis-a-vis going to the United States, for example. And so we have specialists in those areas. So here, a couple success stories here. And as I mentioned on the website, there's a whole bunch more. Here's one of my clients, Baraka Shea Butter, who you may have seen here and there. So we do different things for different clients depending on their particular needs. So in this case, we help them with their commercial sales in the United States and saving money on export marketing. We put them in touch with the Can Export program, which is a rather generous funding program. So if you have a market development program for a foreign country and you put together a solid plan, you can submit that to the Can Export program. And recently they've just reduced the funding to 50%, but that's still pretty good. It used to be 75%. So if you have a $20,000 plan to go into the United States or to Australia or to anywhere else in the world, they will literally write you a check for $10,000 once you have that plan approved. If you have big ambitions, so here's Wild Remedies from Kelowna, BC, and this woman happens to have, great ambitions, and we're happy to support her. She's working with our women-owned business advisor. This is another one of my clients, Queen Bee. You may have seen their products here and there. Sometimes there's issues and challenges that come up that are specific to that industry, whether it's drought conditions, and then other challenges in terms of labor shortages and distribution. So we help, again, it's not a one size fits all. We help people where they're at. We meet them where they're at, and we help them get to where they want to go based on their goals and objectives, not ours. So I'll just flip through a couple more of some of these success stories here. So Rips Cleats, again, this is highlighting the fact that we're in your community. I live not far from the Crofton Ferry Terminal. So, if you do want to meet face to face, if you're on Salt Spring, it's easy for me to go over there. And we could sit down and go through the workbook or go through whatever challenges you happen to be having. And we put you in touch with information that you may not have been aware of. So a lot of what I do is I get a lot of program information, a lot of funding opportunities from our program manager, and I kind of sift through those and say, hey, this client on Salt Spring or this client in Duncan might be interested in that. And I put together some proposals for them, send them some links to the numerous webinars, funding programs, no matter what it is. And again, it's very personalized. COVID-19 was a big deal, of course, and so we pivoted ourselves and making sure that everybody was aware of all the great government supports that were available for COVID-19 relief grants and loans. Right in your backyard here, Salt Spring Sea Salt, who I'm sure you're familiar with. It's a client success story of mine. They came on board the program just last September, so just over a year now. And as you may or may not know, they were selling primarily through the Salt Spring market, the Saturday market. And then COVID came and that was it, shut that down. And so we started working together to find some other opportunities for them to sell their products across Canada and indeed around the world, and put them in touch with some funding programs, the Food Refresh program, which was an opportunity for them to get some money towards increasing their capacity. The Buy BC program, the Launch Online program. There's all kinds of programs coming up, and we're the first to know, and I'm the first to tell my clients, hey, you should consider this. So if you haven't already, you can go to our website, and there's links to this success story. There's a wonderful video that was produced along with a whole bunch of other videos. So here I am. There's my email address. I'm really easy to get a hold of. You can even just go to the website exportnavigator.ca, and there's going to be a link there to get in touch with someone that's in your area if you happen to not be on Salt Spring, or if your business is not based on Salt Spring. What types of businesses can apply? Well, pretty much everybody. So it doesn't matter what stage of business or exporting you're in. It doesn't matter what size you are. If you're a solopreneur, if you've got less than 500 employees, it's all good. And again, interested in exporting interprovincially or internationally, we don't discriminate. It doesn't have to be Australia. It can be Alberta. Our current clients operate in a range of industries. So we have a lot of agri-food clients, but also a lot of manufacturing clients, clean tech, consumer goods. It really runs the gamut. So the next steps, if you do want to find out more about the program, please do get in touch. I can give you a kind of a personalized assessment of where you're at and see if you're right for the program and vice versa. And once you do become part of the program, you can sign up for our Export Navigator newsletter that goes out on a regular basis, which is kind of a general newsletter, and you'll be the recipient of a whole bunch of individualized attention from me, sending you some links to programs and webinars and other resources that I think you might be interested in. We also have an Export Essentials e-course on our website, and that's all, of course, available at exportnavigator.ca. That's about it. All that I have for my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. And if there are none now, then absolutely do get in touch through the website or shoot me an email. Be happy to talk to you about specifics.
Do I get to have a speaking part now?
Absolutely.
Okay, great presentation. Thank you so much. Just a couple of basics that you talked about. I just wanted to explore it a little bit further. Do you also recommend brokers and how to deal with that as well?
Yes, we do have people who can help you with IP protection. We have lawyers who specialize in cross-border law. We have customs brokers, all kinds of people that we can put you in touch with that work with us, work with the program, regularly contribute to webinars through us, and who we've gotten to know, or our clients have gotten to know, and we've sort of been able to vet them along the way, and we can recommend them to you for sure. Okay, so then my takeaway from this is that we really have to apply for entrance into the program before we can go down any path of this. Does that make sense? Right. So I don't just kind of blindly answer questions about export to anybody who will call. You do have to sign up for the program, and to sign up for the program is really quite painless. We ask some questions for an intake survey, which gives us a basic idea of your ownership structure, because there are some funding programs that are only available for incorporated companies, for example. We ask how many employees you have. We ask what your current revenues are generally, and where they're going, where they're coming from, rather, in Canada, whether you have any export sales already, what export markets are you looking to take advantage of. And that basically keeps our funding partners happy. Because we never share that information with anybody on an individual basis, but we aggregate it to make sure that we can keep churning out those numbers and say, look, we are helping people. We are seeing an increase in revenues. We're seeing an increase in employment. And as long as that continues to happen, then we'll keep getting the funding, and the program will keep being free. The only other requirement is that once a year, obviously, to find out what's going on, we follow up with that same 5-minute survey to find out how things are going for you.
Okay, got it. Okay, perfect. Thanks. I know what I have to do now. Go apply and see what happens then, I guess, right?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Any more questions?
No, that's all I have. Anybody else online, or is that it?
That's it for tonight. However, if you're watching the recording, reach out to Fab. You'll find the website. Can you just repeat your email address? And
sure. So the website is exportnavigator.ca, and it's my full name, Fabrizio, Fabrizio at exportnavigator.ca.
So if you're watching the recording, just make sure you reach out to Fab directly, and thanks so much for your webinar and your generosity of time and information.
My pleasure. Nice to be here.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.